Hey there, art nerds, and welcome back to Serenity Art Space for today's Thursday's art class. My name is Lou, and today we're going to discuss perspective. Now, this video is going to be just the beginning kind of basics of drawing in perspective. So I'm just going to go over 1 point, 2 point, and 3 point perspective drawing. With those tools, you should be able to take any object and turn it to view it from any angle, whether you're straight on, up above you, or down below you. And if you watched my video about getting into shape and drawing things based off of shapes, that's going to help you put your characters and your subject matter, whether it's flowers or butterflies or dragons, spaceships, you can turn them into more interesting angles and have a better handle of it and be able to shade them better and have them interact with other things that are in that space. And they're going to look like they all belong in that space. There's nothing worse than, you've got a great character here and there's something weird floating that should be, rooted to the ground or more in perspective in relation to the character. So this should help you in creating your designs and making them look that much better. Another great thing with drawing in perspective, it's going to help you a lot with scenery, whether you have a specific subject or not, whether it's a person or a vehicle or something like that. If you're just drawing a landscape, a cityscape, or anything like that, learning to draw things in perspective is going to add an air of reality to your design. Even if you're drawing something in a cartoony style, people are going to associate with it better. They're going to be able to put themselves in that scene a lot better if everything is relative in perspective to each other. For myself personally, when I was learning to draw comics, one of the most intimidating things was drawing any outside scene in a city. There's so many buildings and architectural features, and it just was very intimidating. But when I learned to use my vanishing points in 2 point, 3 point perspective, it almost became automatic, putting in all those windows and the brick features and all the different layers of headers and transoms and mullions and things. Drawing in perspective made that so much easier and improved my art beyond belief. I finally understood how these great comic artists were able to show you a view looking down a street in New York City, and all the buildings they looked right. They looked like that's how they should be. And all the people that were on the streets were in proportion to those buildings and also vanished into the distance. That's what perspective is going to do for you. It's very intimidating at first, but if you just try out these basics, play around with it a little bit, then after that you can move on to a little more advanced understanding of perspective drawing. And I will include videos later on in the future on specifics on, let's say, how to take a circle, let's say a car tire, and turn that into perspective, and to have the other 3 tires of that vehicle match that one in perspective. There's lots of little tricks like that that are going to really open up some doors for you in creating some art. So I hope you enjoy it, and don't forget to practice every day. Alright, when talking about perspective, the first thing we should consider is our horizon line or our eye line. So that basically is going to tell us where our viewer is looking from, whatever our subject happens to be. If we're looking straight at it, our horizon line will be in the center, roughly. And anything that's in our design vanishes into this horizon line. And so we'll start with a 1 point perspective, and we'll just use a cube. Let's see, we'll put our cube, we'll start with one straight ahead right in front of us. Now, since it's directly in front of us, we won't, we won't see where our vanishing point is because it's actually behind this cube down in here. Since it's straight at us, we're pretty much just seeing that front side if it's a solid cube. Now, if this is an empty box, this is where our vanishing point comes into play. So we take these front corners, line up our straight edge from the corner to the vanishing point, and we draw a line connecting the two. This box will have a back to it. We'll get to that in just a moment. But right now it's okay if your perspective lines travel through that area. We can always erase it later. So there we go. And arbitrarily, I'm gonna kind of pick where the back of our box is gonna be. I'm gonna go with right around there as the depth of our box. 90 degree to our horizon line. Connect that. Parallel to the horizon. And back to a 90 degree. So now we have our box in perspective. If we erase these lines, we can see that a little more clearly. Get rid of our horizon line here. And then if you want, I'll add some shadows to really create that depth. So that's one example of one point perspective. We'll take this same cube, we'll move it down here, we'll do another one up above. Let's just do this. Keep it all the same. These are just for objects that are directly in front of us. Once I get these done, we'll move on to two-point perspective, where you'll start seeing a lot more of the three-dimensional aspect to drawing in perspective. I'll bring back our vanishing point there. Now from this box here, this is the face that we're seeing the most. So this top corner, back to our vanishing point, back to there. And the back of our box. Again, this is a solid cube we'll start with just to get you familiar. We'll do the same for the one that's up in the air floating above us. So there's a couple of solid cubes in one point perspective. Now if we wanted to make these empty boxes just like that one there, we can come from these lines here to our vanishing point. And to figure out the depth of the top of our box, if we want to kind of keep it the same as this one, what you'll want to do is take these back corners and we want to go 90 degrees to our horizon line. I'm going to estimate here because drawing on ringed paper, my straight edge is going to hit that. We'll bring this up, and right where these two lines intersect, if we bring this corner straight up at a 90 degree, right where it intersects that, that's going to be the inside of our box, the back corner of our box. We'll do the same here. 90 degrees, so there. Or we could just run a 90-degree line off of that one. Come straight down this way. This way. These were our lines running over a bit. And now we have the inside of our box there. And we could do the same down here. For this one, I'll just kind of estimate. So we're going to bring this one down here. This will come down about here. You can even draw right through it if you want. So our horizon line, or our vanishing point rather. And we can come across this way. And once you get used to this, you'll have to use the ruler less and less in actual literal vanishing points. A lot of times you can just kind of visualize it as you're laying out your design. So that's 1 point perspective. Now, keeping on the same page, we're going to do a cube over here. We'll do that in 2 point perspective. 1 point perspective uses one vanishing point of the horizon line. 2 point obviously is going to use 2 different points, and that's going to let us see more of our cube. So this line I've just drawn, that would represent kind of this front corner of this box here. So I'm going to pick a vanishing point. I'll put one here, put one way over here, and now from both of these corners we're going to connect lines to these vanishing points, and that's going to create the sides of our cube. I won't draw them all the way through because you don't always have to. So now I've got 2 sides to my cube, and at this point I want to pick kind of the width of my cube, and we're going to put that 90 degrees to our horizon line. I'll say right around here. I'll drop this other one here. Now these cubes, this could be anything. It could be a piece of furniture, it could be an entire building. It could be part of a spacecraft. It could be also part of the human body. It could be the wedge shape that makes the hips of a person. So learning to draw these things at different angles is going to help you create better images. And so here you can see where these lines would have gone all the way through those vanishing points. We've now put this cube in 2 point perspective. Just draw these lines through just to illustrate that a little bit better. And so no matter where you start this cube, let's say we're doing a series of cubes or a series of different things in a space, you could put that cube over here, down here, make it bigger, smaller, longer, wider, it doesn't matter. If it's going to be in relation to this one, you'll use that same horizon line to determine its dimensions relative to this current cube. Alright, so next we're going to talk about 3 point perspective. This one is a little more advanced, and because I'm just drawing on a pad, I'm not working on a drawing board or drafting table. It may be a little bit distorted because I'm limited on where I can put my vanishing points. If you were drawing, say, on a piece of Bristol board or watercolor paper or something, and you have a big table, your kitchen table or drafting table, you can put your vanishing points off of your canvas, and that can help you get the right perspective that you're looking for. For this one, I'm going to make do with what I got. So I'm going to put my horizon line down low here, and I'm going to do just a quick rudimentary sketch of the building so I can put my eyes on it. If you want some windows in it to show you why 3-point perspective is so cool. Alright, we'll do something like that. So our horizon line in 3-point perspective, that's going to be taking care of the perspective of our horizontal lines. So the top of the roof, the top and bottom of windows, doors, and things like that, they're all going to be drawn into perspective to vanishing points on our horizon line. And all of our vertical lines are going to disappear into the vanishing point, our third vanishing point, which can be wherever we decide it to be. So if you want a really dramatic view of a building that's really it's super tall and disappearing in the sky, you can even bring that vanishing point down closer so it tapers off much quicker. If you want more of a gradual perspective on it, that vanishing point is going to have to be way off the paper. But for here, we're going to just drop it there. So I'm going to start with kind of this front corner of our building. Somewhere around there. I'm going to take the sides, and this is kind of a multi-tiered building that I've sketched here, so kind of a central tower and then some buildings off to the side. This could be a castle, or maybe a building in New York or something. And if this was on a city block, you could keep going down the way here and hit at some of the other buildings. And I just want to remind you guys too, this is really just kind of an introduction to perspective. This isn't the be-all, end-all of drawing in perspective. This is really just to get you started with it, so that you can start getting a little more creative with your shapes and with your designs. So I got a few of my vertical lines going. Now I want to kind of finish off my buildings. I'm going to go to my left vanishing point here, create a roof line on this part. Create another roof line in the main tower. Off to the right here. And we'll give this building a little interest, so I'll different sized roof line on this side. And the top of the tower, other side. Alright, so there's our basic building structure, and what I want to do now, and this is a really cool part of 3-point perspective, is when we could start putting in kind of windows and stuff. So on this main tower, I'm going to create a few different little banks of windows, put them in random places. Do a double row there, one here. Right across the building. This is why I like using a clear triangle, as I can see right through it to my other lines. Sometimes I forget that I'm left-handed, and maybe I should have done this from the left to the right. But anyway, there's a few banks of windows, and now to create the tops and bottoms of these window banks, I just go to my horizontal vanishing points here on my horizon line. Alright, so now we've got several different banks of windows here, and I want to kind of divide them up, either whether they're window panes or they're just separate windows for separate spaces that are inside. And this is where your creativity comes in. You can make as many or as little as you want. I think the really tall ones I'm going to kind of just split down the middle. Again, this won't be a highly detailed drawing. We'll do 3 on this. This bottom one will have 3 sections. So yeah, I won't be drawing, the full features of the window. This is just to give you an idea. And I know some of you are probably thrilled at this because it seems, drawing things in the city can be very intimidating with all those buildings and bridges and things, but getting a good hang of a good grasp on drawing with perspective, suddenly that stuff becomes a lot easier. And then all of it just kind of boils down to a bunch of rectangular cubes everywhere. And I found back when I was doing more illustrating like this that it was almost meditative. So in this building here, I'm going to do just one big huge bank of windows. I'll do some on the other side just to kind of get us through this, but this is what I mean. Like, now that I'm sketching this, I kind of want to make this a finished drawing because it is a lot of fun creating these buildings in perspective. Do like little mullions dividing them there. Great. Back to my third vanishing point to create my vertical lines. Hopefully you can see that pretty well. Whole banks of windows on here. Again, our perspective's a little tweaked because of the range that I have on this pad, but I think you get a good idea of what's happening. So we're going to do the main entrance to this building on this side of the road. Big sets of doors. Doors down the middle. Maybe this is, I don't know, maybe this is the back side of the building and that's the shipping and receiving area. Learning to draw things like this in perspective will inspire you to add a bit more detail to your work too. I think, if you can imagine, Batman sitting perched atop the edge of a building, and you want to create all the stonework and stuff around there. Drawing in perspective is almost necessary and mandatory for drawing something like that and making it look good. Boom. And that's pretty much as far as I'm going to take 3-point perspective for you right now. But as you can see now, you really get that impression that building is super tall, going up into the distance. And the same is true if we were to reverse this and put our vanishing point way down low. You're looking at the top of a roof and the rest of the building is kind of funneling down. That's what you get when you move your horizon or your vanishing point down below. So that's the basic principles of 1, 2, and 3 point perspective. I didn't go through every aspect of it, and I didn't do any highly detailed drawings because I didn't want to scare you right off the bat. But there's some great tips here and instruction for you to take and practice, and really be able to play around with your shapes. That, as I mentioned in another video, is going to have you drawing stuff that's a lot more dynamic and really cool to look at. So before we go, I also want to thank my new patron, Nate, who got on there and became a subscribed on Patreon. So Amanda and Nate, thank you both for being patrons and helping me get this whole thing started. If any of you out there would like to help me grow this channel, help me to get better equipment and make better videos for you, consider becoming a patron, and that's going to help me to improve this whole thing. Any money that comes in through that is going to be put right back into this channel. It's not for me to go out and buy candy and firecrackers with. So know that if you do become a patron, you should see some results on here. And it's also going to help me to provide some gift items for anyone who subscribes to Patreon. So, thanks again. Alright guys, so keep your pencils sharp, keep your paintbrushes wet, and keep making art every single day. See ya.